So we've been trying to get her to do therapy so that she's not eating certain things. She likes batteries, specifically double and triple A's. She likes like getting into like chemicals. So I have to have like baby locks on all the cabinets and like
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my show. To this, who is coming back, y'all. So this is actually her second time coming onto the Empowered podcast. The first time we met, it was just like she had so many amazing things to say. So I was like, you know what, we gotta come back because the shows is not long enough to just explain all of her awesomeness. So I did bring back Miss Veronica, and we're going to be just talking about her journey as an autism mom. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring her. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for being here. So I know we kind of talked a little bit before we got started. So today you're talking about gentle parenting, as well as I know we talked about like some conversations about therapy and then also social stories, which is actually like something I'm not really that familiar with. So where do you want to start?
Okay. I know we're talking about boundaries and consent and like getting kids to cooperate. So if we want to start there,
Yeah, that's fine.
we do that. Okay. So do you have any questions for me?
So I know we talked a little bit. You talked about lying, personal boundaries, consent, verbal aggression, and meltdowns. Since it is for children with autism and parents learning how to work with their children, what is, I guess you could just start with your own experience with these and then just kind of talk about like what you did to change the behavior. I know last time we talk, you were saying like a lot of the behaviors that your son had, he no longer has. So could you just give us a backstory first, just for people that may not have watched the first interview, and then after that we can go into the gentle parenting consequences.
Absolutely. So yeah, last time we were talking about my son and how the food dyes affected him. Recently, he actually got into some red and yellow dye and he went absolutely nuts for about a week. Like his pediatrician saw it, his respite worker saw it, his occupational therapist saw it. And they're like, this is not his normal behavior. I was like, yeah, this is the yellow dye. But then he got into some red dye and went like super hyper. It just could not sit still. It was like one of those super bouncy balls in a gym. It was so bad.
Is that the one you when you messaged me, or is this a different time or the one you messaged
Yeah,
me?
no, the one that I messaged you.
Okay.
Yeah, and he actually got into it a couple times after that, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's taking snacks from kids at school again."
Yeah.
So, like, please don't do that. But no, so a lot of those behaviors, like the physical aggression, the verbal aggression, they're a lot less now. I'm not gonna say that they're totally gone because they're not totally gone, but they're more manageable. They're less intensity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're easier to get through with him. So and my daughter too. She's in a she's in a screaming stage right now. So we just got to tell her, the baby's sleeping next door. You don't want to wake up the baby. We got a next door neighbor with a baby, so I'm like, you need to, not wake up the baby. So, but like going into the consent and boundaries. So I am personally a DVSA survivor. So consent and boundaries is very, very important to me, and I have hammered it in since day one. So a lot of the stuff, like my son likes to take my phone, and I count that as a consent and boundary because he usually tries to get it when I'm sleeping. And so I always tell him, buddy, can people consent when they're sleeping? And he goes, no, mommy, they can't. And I said, why? He goes, because they can't say yes. It's beautiful. It really is. It's beautiful. I'm just wanting to set him up for later in life when that becomes a bigger thing. So we had an issue where he lied about it. I talked about him being in a lying stage. So he took my mom's phone the one night and drained the battery. And I asked him, "Did you take grandma's phone?" And he goes, "No, mommy." And I was like, "Okay, because it's sitting right here and it's dead. And grandma had a full battery last night." I said, "So what happened?" He goes, "Yeah, I took it." And I was like, "Okay, so you took it without permission, without consent. You lied about it. This is not okay." So he had his previous tablet at the time, and he had it plugged in. So instead of taking things away, so a lot of gentle parenting is natural consequences or logical consequences. They don't take things away, they don't punish, they don't, So what I did, instead of punishing him and taking away his tablet, I ended up where I told him, "Okay, your tablet's plugged in right now. We are going to shut it off at whatever percentage it's at right now. We're going to unplug it, and grandma gets to use your cord to charge her phone. And when your tablet dies," I think it was at like 85%. So it was, high enough.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, "When your tablet's done," I said, "it's done for the day. You don't get the charger back today." I said, "Because that's that's your consequence for taking the phone and lying. Now grandma gets to take your cord and use it today." And he goes, "That's fair." But I'm just like, so it's a different type of consequence, because I know where we're talking about like how it's so permissive and there's no consequences, but there is. So that's just kind of one example of how a boundary would be set.
Question about that.
Yeah,
So one, how old is your son?
right now he's 6.
Okay, he's 6. So when you create like his consequences for him, are they specific? Because I know you also have like a 3-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like what would you do in that situation if for your 3-year-old child? And then is it something that you kind of create in the moment, or is it something that like
I try to create it in the moment if possible, just because it's fresh in their mind. Otherwise, we'll do a time in or a break, and then we'll come back to it. And usually they're pretty good at coming back to it. Even the 3-year-old, they're pretty good at coming back to it, because like we were talking about last time, autistic kids are so smart, and they really do, they can remember things very well.
yeah.
So yeah, so I just kind of make it up as I go and try to use the most logical explanation or consequence. They also have things like natural consequences. So, for instance, if your child is throwing a toy, okay, let's be real, that's the thing. So, if your child's throwing a toy, that toy is no longer being safe. You treat the toy like an animate object. You take the toy away and you go, "Okay, Mr. Toy, if you can't behave and play nicely with others, then we're going to go take a break until you can come back and play nicely." And then you set the toy aside. And then once they've calmed down, you go, "Okay, Mr. Toy, are you ready to play nice?" Bring it back in.
So instead of talking to the child, instead
Yes.
you
You're
okay, I get
talking
what you're
to the
saying.
inanimate object. Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, like, okay, so that would be like an imposed consequence, but more of a natural consequence would be like if your kid doesn't want to wear their jacket outside, because some of them don't like jackets. What you do to have a natural consequence is you take the jacket with you, because obviously they need the jacket, but you take the jacket with you. You allow them to go out without the jacket. You allow them to feel cold until they ask for the jacket. And then you go, "Oh, you need your jacket. Okay, here it is. That was really cold."
Yeah, and I heard that same example because I was doing like something child development.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I know it's hard. It's not the easiest thing, but it's basically like, think of it as a cause and effect. So you don't wear your coat outside, you're gonna get cold.
Yeah.
You don't want to pick up your toys, you might step on them. They
Mm.
might break. We would have to throw them away if they're broken. Or you might not be able to play as well as you want to, or you might not be able to find the toy that you're looking for. It might get lost. So it's just kind of natural consequences like that. And that's pretty much what they do for consequences in general. Like I said, it's not punitive. It's not harsh. It's just using empathy and logic to impose a boundary.
So one thing I know I've experienced this, and then I was actually asked this when I went on somebody else's podcast as a guest. What do you do? Like, okay, two parts to this. One of them is this takes a lot of patience, okay? Because I
Yes.
know for me personally, I just be like, I don't even want to deal with this right now because it's so many steps to trying to get children to understand like the consequences of their behaviors. I know, like, I've been trying to create like different routines for my son, and then it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is taking so much out of me, and stuff like that. So, do you experience that as well, where it's
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh
okay,
God, yeah. All the time. All the time. Matter of fact, I actually had to take a was it yesterday? I actually had to step out of the room and take a break because I was so frustrated. I actually called my daughter's dad. I was trying to do some homework
mm-hmm,
and the kids were like right up in my face and I freaked. And I just started having like an anxiety attack. I have really bad anxiety. So I called her dad and I was like, "Look, you got to come over. You got to help me. She's smearing poo everywhere. She's jumping around. She's not wanting to, she's not gentle childing."
yeah,
Basically. And he goes, "Okay, okay, I'll come over. I'll help you get him to bed and then you can get your homework done." I'm like, "I would really appreciate it because it's like, a week late."
yeah,
But so yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not by far from a perfect parent. Okay. If
none
somebody
of
says they're a perfect parent, they are lying.
us.
They are lying.
Yeah,
There's 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 good parents and there's great parents.
mm-hmm,
And then there's, some that go in between. But there's no such thing as a perfect parent. I don't care if you're doing keto and bento boxes and matching outfits and getting your kids little ride-on cars, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. We all get frustrated, we all get overwhelmed, and I had a thing for that for you. I call it the love tank. And this is actually a really common technique for this. So basically what the love tank is it's hugs and kisses, okay? And physical touch, affection from your kids. And I equate it to like eating pizza, slices of pizza. And so like physically in your body when you eat pizza, you're starving, you're hungry. You go and you eat a slice of pizza and then you're still hungry so you eat another slice of pizza and maybe you're still hungry and you eat another slice. But
mm-hmm,
after that third slice, you're just like, I don't know about this. I might get sick. So, when you're constantly getting hugs and kisses and touches and snuggles or whatever, eventually it gets to be too much and you're like overstimulated, and you're like, oh my God, get off of me. So I explain it like that to the kids. Like once I get too many hugs and kisses, I'm full. My
mm-hmm.
love tank is full and I need to wait a little bit until I'm empty again. I'm not full anymore. And then I can have some more because otherwise mommy gets sick and mommy gets frustrated and mommy doesn't want to be around them. And that's a completely normal feeling. And it's okay to feel that way. But yeah, absolutely. I definitely get overwhelmed. I definitely get overstimulated. Do I yell? Yes. I try not to, but sometimes it happens, and then I go and apologize and they're like, "It's okay, Mom." And I'm like, "It's really not, but I appreciate you being so gracious and forgiving."
So, what do you do for self-care?
Oh, you had to ask the hard question.
Oh no, you got to do. Well, I know you.
Oh
One thing
no, I do shopping therapy.
you said you try to do what?
I do shopping therapy.
Okay, I mean,
I went and bought myself some organizational pins for the house.
Hey, whatever works, as long as you're doing always doing
Yeah.
something, it just may
Oh,
not
yeah.
like it's
Oh,
self-care.
yeah. Yeah, it's hard to do self-care. I know that's you really do gotta prioritize it, and it's hard sometimes. I used to be in therapy when I was younger, and my in-home therapists made my mom do self-care. And they told her she had to take $5 and go to the Dollar Tree and find something just for herself that she wasn't going to share with me. They're like, if you get a candy bar, you have to eat it in your car. You
Mm,
cannot share it with your daughter. You have to, just be for you. And she's sitting in the middle of Dollar Tree and she's like, oh my God, what do I do? And she started having a meltdown in Dollar Tree. And I was just like, it can't be that hard. And then
yeah.
I went and did the same thing. And I was like, oh my God, it really is. Like, it's so hard to spend something on yourself. I mean,
Mm,
this dress here, I just got it, and this was like the first item of clothing that I've bought myself in probably over 6 months.
mm,
And because it's, it all goes to the kids.
yeah.
And, so I got to fill up my own personal love tank to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm not pouring from an empty cup.
So that kind of bring me into the other thing that I know we were kind of discussing before, which is managing like when your kids have so much going on, like as a autism, you have to worry about ABA therapy. I know you mentioned you also do respite as well. So
Mhm.
could you talk a little bit about some of the supports that you have?
Yeah. So the respite, basically, so my mom actually takes my daughter because we couldn't find a respite worker for her in our area. So she gets 9 hours a week with her. So she basically just takes her out of the house, take her to the park, take her to the store, whatever it may be, just take her out. And I mean, even if it's just for a walk, but she gets like 9 hours a week. So my mom takes her like 2, 3 days a week and just kind of splits it up. My son, he goes with his respite worker. She actually just took him yesterday, and she actually took him on Tuesday and said that he was absolutely off his rocker. And she's like, I don't know what he ate, but this is not his normal behavior. He had gotten into the dye. And then yesterday she came back and she goes, he was great today. He was wonderful. They go to her house, they go to the county park, they go to the library, they go to McDonald's, they go here, there, and everywhere, and make sure that he just gets out of the house.
Mhm.
And so it takes care of some of his rambunctiousness, and it takes care of some of the energy that's all pent up from being in the house. So yeah, it gives me a break where I'm able to, take a shower, wash my hair, some dishes, do some laundry, take a nap,
Yeah.
whatever I want to do for that few hours. And then they bring them back, and then I've had a nice little break. That's my time to do self-care.
Can you explain the difference between respite and ABA therapy?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Okay, so there's different types of ABA therapy. So you have in-home and you have center-based. Now, the center-based is kind of similar to respite, except for it's at a center, whereas the respite worker, I mean, you do have respite that does like kind of like a daycare center almost, if that makes sense. But then you have workers that'll take them out of the house and go and do things with them. Whereas ABA therapists, like you have to, I think the parent has to be present at all times.
Yeah, they do.
Our rules when we were getting therapy. And they come in the home. Ours came in the home, and our worker had like 42 hours a week
Mm,
between the two kids. And so they would come in and they would do, like, they call it protocols. So basically, they use different techniques to get them to memorize things, get them to perform certain tasks. So like if they want them to clean up the room or whatever, they use like first then statements, or they count backwards from 5, or they go 1, 2, 3 eyes on me, and it just gets them to stop. But I remember the one time we actually did, because my son was so rambunctious, we actually went outside and we made like an obstacle course with chalk, and we just had him run through it. He ran through that thing I had it. Oh my gosh, my grandma's driveway is probably about maybe like 30 feet. He
Mm,
went through that in like 30 seconds.
wow.
He
And you
just,
said you did it with chalk? Like you drew stuff out for him?
he drew stuff. So like we drew like lily pads and he had to like jump from pad to pad, or we did like a flower stem and he'd have to walk the stem. And then we did a flower where he had to spin on the flower and then he had to like touch all the stars, pop all the bubbles, that kind of thing. And he went like, I mean, it was physical.
Yeah.
And he went through that in like 30 seconds and did every single step in 30 seconds. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, and we sent him through about another 7 times.
Oh.
Swear yourself out.
So
Um,
you have like so many resources. This like one thing I noticed about you is all the stuff that it's like that. Like I would have never thought like to do
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So how do you find this stuff?
So actually, I watch a lot of Facebook.
Okay.
I follow some different pages that are like licensed child therapists. So
Mm-hmm.
like one of the ones I do is, I think her name is Eli, and she has just a major wealth of knowledge. I'm not exactly sure what her last name is. I can't remember. But she wears a lot of funky earrings, like feathery earrings or chain earrings or whatever. Just absolutely adorable. But she has such a wealth of knowledge, and a lot of this stuff I base some of my stuff off of. I use it as like a starting stone, and then I just go from there. But yeah, a lot of Facebook reels, a lot of
Okay.
Facebook reels, a lot of vlogs, and yeah.
And then how do you determine like what is the most important? Just going back to the therapy because I don't want to miss this question. How do you determine what's the most important therapies like for your kid? And just the backstory, like for me,
Yeah.
my son needs occupational therapy and he needs speech therapy. However, I took him out of occupational therapy because he needs ABA. And as a parent, I'm like, I can't make therapy a full time job. So,
Yeah.
like, you got to pick and choose. So, how do you determine what the son needs and what it's like, okay, we can just try
Yeah.
something
Well,
on?
I mean, right now, so we're having a bit of a problem with the school district. It's kind of settled now, but for a while there, it was kind of touch and go. My son has a sensory food aversion, so he doesn't eat certain things.
Mm,
He's got his safe foods. So we have him in occupational therapy right now to try to broaden his texture palette and to get him to accept new foods and new textures and new flavors. Like he won't touch mashed potatoes with a 10-foot pole. I like me a mashed potato bowl. Okay, that's like
mm,
hometown comfort food. Okay, like you put some popcorn chicken and some corn in there. He won't touch it. Won't touch it. He won't do like barbecue sauce, or like if you have like spaghetti sauce that has tomato chunks in it, he won't touch it. And I'm just like, you're so weird. It's so weird. But so we have him in feeding therapy for that. And then we also have my daughter in feeding therapy, but hers is like the opposite side. She has pica.
mm.
So recently, so gross. She's been eating poo lately, and it's just so this has been for like 6 months. So we've been trying to get her to do therapy so that she's not eating certain
Yeah.
things. She likes batteries, specifically double and triple A's. She likes like getting into like chemicals. So I have to have like baby locks on all the cabinets and like locks on the doors. And because she'll just get into stuff, she's pulled my thermostat off the wall probably 12, 13 times to get the
Wow.
batteries. She removes the batteries out of the remote on a regular basis just to try to eat them. And I'm like, please don't. So dangerous for you.
Yeah.
But to have her in feeding therapy to try to curb some of those behaviors. So sometimes the OT can curve behaviors. It's not always like writing or like physically grasping things, but it can be behavioral as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm more familiar with it being behavioral. But then I know they also help with like fine motor skills and stuff like that
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. So, social stories. Can you
yes,
explain what social stories are?
absolutely. So, a social story is actually an ABA technique, and it is basically like a little story that incorporates the kid
Mhm.
and it teaches them what to do and why we do this and not this. So, you said you wanted me to share a couple.
Yeah.
Okay, so like my kids have issues. Now, this was written by AI. So I just kind of put like a couple little requirements in there and then it took it from there. So for this one, so my kids have a lot of problems with like their big feelings. So the social story that it wrote was understanding and handling my big feelings. It says, "Hi, my name is whatever and I have many different feelings every day. These feelings are called emotions. They can be big or small. Small emotions are easier to handle than big feelings, so it is important to know how to handle my emotions, especially the big ones. Handling my emotions calmly helps to keep everyone's bodies safe and also helps calm down other people's big feelings. Big feelings are very strong emotions that make my body feel like it's going to explode from all the pressure inside me. Some common big feelings are anger, frustration, jealousy, anxiety, fear, boredom, sadness, happiness, and excitement. I can identify my big feelings by paying attention to what I feel inside my body: tight muscles, fast heartbeat, butterflies in my tummy, noticing the thoughts in my head. I feel upset or scared, and looking at how I'm acting, crying, yelling, smiling, jumping up and down. Handling my big feelings helps me feel better and calm down, make good choices, and stay safe and get along with family and friends. And then it says, so then it gives you like coping skills.
Mhm.
So, for instance, if I feel angry or frustrated, I can take deep breaths, count to 10, squeeze a stress ball, hug a stuffy, talk to a family member, draw a color. If I feel sad or anxious, I can find a quiet place to relax, think about happy memories or things I like, listen to my favorite music or read a book. If I feel scared, I can hold a comforting item like a blanket or toy, do something that makes me feel brave. I liked this one. It says, like, taking small steps or playing pretend like I'm a princess, dragon, or knight. Tell my family member about my fears or being jealous and remember that it's okay to feel my big feelings. Feeling happy or excited, it does things like dancing or playing a game, drawing, reading, or playing a game for boredom, using the imagination to create a new game or story. And then if I'm having trouble handling my big feelings, it's okay to ask for help from a family member, friend, or teacher that can help me find better. I'm sorry, feel better and find ways to cope with my big feelings. So it's just some stuff like that where it just kind of explains what it is to the child in ways that they can understand. And then it gives them the coping skills or instructions on how to do so.
So, like a lot of parents who are like, they don't know if their child actually understands or not. So, like, what do you do? Like, I know what I do. So, let me just ask you that. So, what do you do? Do you keep, how do you know that they understand it? So,
So with the social stories, it's a lot of repetition.
okay.
So you basically sit down and read it to them like a story, like I just did. And so usually like being kind to my brother or sister is another one. And it has to do with like, here, I'll just share it. It says, "Hi, my name is blank and I have a brother or sister named blank. We live together and do many things together. Kindness means being nice to others. It also means using gentle words, sharing and helping each other. I can be nice to my sibling by saying nice things like good job or I like playing with you, sharing my toys or taking turns when we play, using gentle hands and feet and not hurt my sibling, and listen when my sibling wants to talk to me. When I am kind to my sibling, we both feel happy. My sibling will want to play with me more. We have more fun together, and mommy is really proud of us. Sometimes I feel angry or upset. When this happens, I can kindly tell an adult how I feel without yelling. Find a quiet place to take deep breaths or count to 10, and remember that my sibling is my friend. I do not use unkind words or actions. I like being kind to my sibling because it helps us feel good and get along better. I will try to be kind every day."
Hmm.
So usually when they're like doing things like hitting each other or throwing things at each other, I will go, "Okay, do we need to read the social story?" And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they want to and sometimes they don't want to. And it's okay if they don't. But, if it's something like, for instance, if they're like choking one another, okay, jumping on one another's head, throwing a blanket over them, then I will read them the story and I will make them sit there and listen until I'm done. Even if they're doing one of these, they can still hear me, but I will read it over and over and over until it clicks.
So basically, social stories is more so like in the moment of what they're doing. Like, okay, I get it because I didn't get it at first.
Yep, it's in
Okay,
the moment to refresh what you're supposed to be doing.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool. You got to start you like an Etsy shop or like something because I feel like you just have so many different like resources. Facebook group, you got to do something. I'm just saying. So thank you for sharing those. Is it anything else? I know we talked about and we kind of get into the end. We talked about gentle parenting consequences,
Mm-hmm.
therapy, strategies and skills to use at home, and social stories. So, is there anything else that you want to add, like any type of advice that you have for autistic
Absolutely. So, like sometimes you'll have a kid that doesn't want to cooperate. They don't want to get dressed. They don't want to go out the door.
Mm,
They don't want to leave the store. So we do what we call stomp like a dino, hop like a frog. So we tell them, okay, we're leaving now. Do you want to stomp like a dinosaur or do you want to hop like a frog? What are we going to do? And that allows them to make it the decision and it makes it fun for them. Usually my daughter stomps and my son hops. Usually, not always. But then they just, stomping like a dinosaur and then they stomp to the door. And
mhm.
it just makes it it's like a redirection thing. And then they actually do go out the door. That one's fairly foolproof for us. It works probably 95% of the time. And sometimes I forget to use it, but when I do use it, it works. A lot of things like for like calm down and listen, we use a lot of like Simon Says. If my daughter is screaming, I used this one yesterday. Actually, she was screaming in the car at the gas station. My mom went into the gas station to get some coffee and she was just shrieking. And I was like, hey, she just stops and looks at me and I was like, I got a question for you. What? I was like, did you know I love you? She goes,
Oh,
Mom.
oh,
So whispering they want to hear what you have to say.
mhm.
And I know that they seem like they don't, but they genuinely want to hear what you have to say. And so when you whisper, you're taking that big voice out of it
Mhm.
and it actually makes them listen
Yeah.
and
I
come down.
used one that you said the other day. I used it the other day that you said last. I was like, smell the flowers and blow the bubbles. Fly.
Yes. Yes, that one. Sometimes I have to tell myself that one.
Yeah, I know. Then I'm overstimulated and it's just like a
Yeah.
whole thing. So I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just saw one the other day for overstimulation. And it was a mom singing to herself. And she's just like, oh my God, I'm overstimulated. I am frustrated. I am going to go sweep the floor. I'm going to go vacuum because it makes me feel better. She's just like singing to herself. And I'm just like, that is so smart.
yeah.
Because it makes you feel silly. It really does. And so like going into singing, like we do cleanup songs. So like for mine, I do it in like different tempos. I go pick it up and put it in the bucket. And they start singing it with me. And then they start picking things up. And it's just like they like throw toys in like to the beat. Or we do like floor is lava if they're like running around. So I'll be like, hey, floor is lava. And they'll like jump on a chair. And then it'll stop the running around for a little bit. But yeah, and then like the other thing that I wanted to share with you guys just as a last minute thing was because consent is so important. And it's like this one I got from my therapist. Shout out to her. But she introduced me to something that's called tea consent, like the drink. And I think it's by Blue something group. And there's like a couple of swear words in the adult one, so just fair warning. But it explains consent by like drinking tea. Like if a person is unconscious or they're sleeping, they don't want tea. They might have wanted tea when they were awake, but now they're sleeping. You don't make them drink the tea.
Yeah.
So it's like using little analogies
Mm-hmm.
to help. And then they also have one for kids. They have consent for kids, it's the same group. But it teaches kids like if somebody's doing something that you don't like, you can go and tell a teacher. If somebody pushes you, you didn't consent to be being pushed. That's
Mm-hmm.
bullying. That's not okay. And you can go and tell somebody. So just that kind of thing. But was there any other questions you had?
No, I just wanted to know, just in, like, just wrapping up, make sure we touched on everything as far as like the consequences, just things that, like parents can do. I just want to say, like, I love everything that you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. And also just the fact, like, because you always say, like, I'm not an expert, stuff like that, but you are like really rocking it. Like, you are a superstar. So I just want to put that out there. You're doing really amazing things. It made me, even from the first interview that we did, let me go to all these, like, let me check this. And it's funny because after we did the interview, I went and did an observation in my son's class, and they were talking about, like, oh, well, like the teacher, she's like the top, like she's the mentor for all the other teachers and stuff. And I'm like, she was reinforcing the kids. And now, mind you, I went at 9 o'clock in the morning. And when the kid did something correctly, she was like, "Good job. Let me go get your Skittles." And I'm like, I know she didn't just say that. Like, I'm
No,
sitting there in my head, like,
no.
I know you
I
did not.
know we were talking about that they were giving him candy in the right in the
Yeah,
way that
okay,
they
so
were
I did
leaving.
tell you about that. Yes.
Yeah, oh my
Literally
god.
first thing in the morning. And I'm just like, so I ended up finding dye free, because I actually like spoke with the principal and stuff, and I'm like, that's not okay. But my thing is, like, why is that something that has to be explained? I know you don't wake up in the morning and give your kids no Skittles. And so I found him like dye free, because she was like, no, we're going to give them candy, because that's how we reinforce and get them to do what we need them to do. I'm just like, hopefully, like, this is my last year. Like, I would like my kid to, we tried, like, we were fully prepared. So I was like, I want this to be his last year in public school, because I want to try again. So, but yeah, it's just like, so just, I just say all that to say, like, just bringing awareness to, like, things, simple things that, and, it doesn't take an expert to know what you should and shouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to thank you, for like coming
Yeah,
on the show and just
absolutely.
give you your kudos, because, like I said, it's not easy. So I know, like, hearing you talk about what you're doing, I know, like, because I'm an autism parent, so I know it's not just as easy as, like, you make it look easy. And so
No,
I just wanted to
I make
commend.
I make it I make it look good. It's not the easiest.
It's not easy, because, like I said, I
No.
try it too. But thank you so much. I see it's all, we almost at the top of the hour. I gotta go hurry up and get my oil changed.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so
Oh, I
thank
did want to let you know. I found
you.
something that I thought you'd think was interesting. Last thing. I found Starburst that are dye-free.
Okay.
They
Yes.
are they are gummies. I think they're called Starburst goodies, and they're in like the gluten-free, like with like the Lily's candy or the Zolly Pops or whatever. They're in
Do you
like
get
that
the Yum
section
Yum
at
brand?
Walmart.
Do you
They're
get
dye-free.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna
Yeah.
say, I started finding a lot of Yum Yum brand as
Yes. Yum
well.
yum. Oh my god. Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
they really like that one. But I'm like, it's crazy that I have to like find out, because I wasn't even giving my kids candy like that, and now I gotta go find all these brands, because they're like, no,
Yeah.
that's what we do here. So I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, send me the link as well, because I'm probably gonna forget about that. Probably forget. So send it to me. Did you have any last words before we close out?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.